The cage rattled violently as the colossal Solar-Flare Minotaur slammed its massive hooves against the reinforced walls, sending shockwaves through the metal bars that imprisoned Dr. Elias Corbin. Flames licked hungrily at the edges of the enclosure, their orange tongues casting flickering shadows on Elias' grim face. The heat was suffocating, blistering the air, and yet Elias stood motionless, his eyes locked onto the fiery beast thrashing mere feet away. They think they're punishing me by locking me with this beast. But they don't understand what I can do, Elias thought, his inner voice steady despite the roaring inferno surrounding him. His breath came in shallow gasps, sweat stinging his eyes, but beneath the panic that clawed at his chest, a strange calm flickered, an ember of defiance that refused to die. The Minotaur's eyes burned with solar intensity, veins of molten energy pulsing beneath its chiseled, obsidian-like skin. Each movement sent sparks cascading through the cage, and the ground trembled under its fury. Elias' fingers tightened around the cold, twisted bars, knuckles whitening. "Come on, Elias. Remember why you're here," he whispered to himself, voice rough, barely audible over the beast's rage. He had been trapped here for hours, maybe longer, time blurred in the furnace heat. His mind raced back to the beginning, to the events that had thrust him into this inferno. Elias Corbin was no ordinary man. He was a brilliant scientist and engineer, a mind forged in the crucible of loss and obsession. Years ago, during the First Contact invasion, an alien armada had descended upon Earth like a plague of shadows. In the chaos, Elias lost his wife and daughter, torn from him in a merciless strike that had left him hollow and burning for vengeance. That trauma had reshaped him, driving him down a path few dared to follow. He had devoted himself to mastering alien technology, hunting for ways to turn their own weapons against them. His breakthroughs in harnessing extraterrestrial energy had earned him both reverence and scorn. Many saw him as reckless, obsessed to the point of madness. Others whispered that his experiments skirted ethical boundaries no scientist should cross. But Elias didn't care. His mission was clear: protect Earth at any cost. Now here he was, imprisoned alongside one of the deadliest creatures born from alien power, the Solar-Flare Minotaur. It was a living weapon, a fusion of savage strength and solar plasma, engineered in some clandestine lab to be the ultimate guardian or executioner. The very thing Elias had hoped to understand, to control. And yet they had thrown him in with it like a common prisoner, expecting the beast to be his end. "Why me? Why here?" he muttered, voice cracking. The cage shuddered again as the Minotaur charged, its hooves striking sparks off the reinforced walls. Elias ducked instinctively, heart hammering. There was no room for error. Not now. His eyes flicked to the small console embedded in the cage wall, crude, archaic by his standards but functional. A faint glow pulsed from the interface, hinting at latent energy. Elias' mind leapt into action. Years of research, countless nights spent decoding alien tech, they had to have left a weakness. Think, Elias, you're not just some trapped scientist. You're the one who built the converter matrix in Section 9. You know this technology inside out, he reminded himself, voice low but firm. His fingers brushed the console, fingertips tingling as they connected with the alien circuitry. The Minotaur roared, a sound like a solar storm unleashed. Elias flinched but didn't break focus. Flames curled closer, the heat intensifying until sweat streamed down his face in burning rivulets. His heart pounded not just with fear, but with a fiery resolve. They want me broken. They want me to fail, he thought, teeth clenched. But I'm the one who can turn this fire into light. Memories flooded in, images of his wife's smile, his daughter's laughter, the world they had dreamed of protecting. The pain was sharp, but it steeled his will. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for redemption. A sudden, violent slam shook the cage. The Minotaur's molten fists collided with the bars, sending a shower of sparks into Elia's eyes. He staggered backward but caught himself. The beast's eyes locked on his, an inferno of rage and fury. Elias felt an unexpected connection, a recognition of raw power, of untamed energy mirrored in his own restless spirit. "Do you know what I see?" Elias whispered, voice barely a breath. "I see a weapon chained by fear, just like me." His hands flew over the console, fingers flying as he initiated a sequence born from desperation and genius. The cage's energy field flickered, the flames wavered, and for a brief shimmering moment the Minotaur paused, confused. Sensing a shift, Elias' heart surged. This was his moment. But doubts gnawed at him. What if the beast turned on him? What if the flames consumed them both? The weight of the past pressed down hard, threatening to crush his resolve. He closed his eyes, inhaled the searing air, and forced himself to remember. He was Elias Corbin. Survivor, fighter, protector. They think they can lock me away, but I'm the spark that will ignite the revolution. He vowed silently, as the cage's energy began to hum with alien power. Elias prepared himself for the battle ahead, not just against the Minotaur, but against the ghosts of his past and the darkness encroaching on Earth's future. The flames crackled louder, the beast's growls deepened, but Elias stood tall, eyes blazing with a fierce determination. The war was far from over, and he was ready to burn through the night. The echo of the alarm cut through the sterile corridors of the Earth Defense Council's underground facility like a blade. Unprecedented solar flare detected, magnitude and energy levels off the charts, the automated voice warned, reverberating through the dimly lit command center. Dr. Elias Corbin's eyes snapped open, heart hammering against his ribs as if trying to escape the cage of his chest. Locked inside the reinforced containment pod adjacent to the Minotaur's cage, Elias' breath came in shallow, ragged bursts. His fingers curled around the cold metal bars that separated him from the blazing inferno that was the Solar-Flare Minotaur. The creature's molten eyes locked onto his, unblinking and filled with ancient, cosmic rage. Elias felt a shiver, not of fear, but a fierce cocktail of pride and vulnerability coursing through his veins. "They're warning us about the solar flare, but they don't see the bigger picture," Elias muttered under his breath, voice hoarse from disuse and frustration. His mind raced back to the Council's decision that had sealed his fate. Too dangerous to be trusted with the Minotaur's fire, too uncontrollable to be allowed freedom. The very thing he had spent years trying to master had become his prison. A sharp knock on the observation window startled him. Dr. Mara Voss, one of his few trusted colleagues, her face etched with worry and doubt, peered inside. "Elias, you know they don't want you here. They think you'll lose control. That the Minotaur's fire will consume everything, especially you." Elias' lips twisted into a bitter smile. "Control is an illusion, Mara. But understanding, that's power. And the Minotaur's fire, it's the key to humanity's survival." She shook her head. "It's a weapon no one can wield safely. The Council's orders were clear. You stay locked in until further notice." His jaw clenched, a flicker of defiance sparking in his eyes. "Further notice, when the flare hits, when the atmosphere begins to burn away. You're locking me up with a ticking time bomb and calling it containment." Mara's eyes softened, regret mingling with resolve. "It's not just about you, Elias. The facility's integrity. The Minotaur's fire is unstable," Elias interrupted, voice rising despite himself. "I know that better than anyone. But I also know how to harness it. They're too scared to see it. They think I'm reckless, but it's their fear that will destroy us all." The room fell silent except for the distant, ominous hum of the solar flare sensors. Elia's thoughts spiraled deeper into memories of his past, his closest allies on the Earth Defense Council who had once championed his work but now whispered doubts behind closed doors. Their skepticism was a heavy chain, but beneath it lay a fragile thread of trust, the last lifeline tethering him to hope. Suddenly, the Minotaur's cage shuddered violently. The creature's flames erupted with renewed fury, licking at the containment walls, sending sparks cascading like meteor showers. Elia stepped back instinctively, heart pounding in sync with the beast's roars. "Easy, old friend," he whispered, voice steady despite the chaos. "I'm not your enemy." For a moment the Minotaur's fiery gaze softened, and Elias glimpsed something unexpected, an ancient intelligence, a loneliness mirrored in his own. Years of isolation, of being branded dangerous, had carved similar scars into both their souls. His fingers brushed the console embedded in the cage wall, its alien circuitry humming faintly under his touch. The interface was crude, but it held secrets, secrets Elias had helped design before his imprisonment. With a surge of determination, he began to manipulate the controls, initiating a sequence to stabilize the Minotaur's fire energy. "Come on," he urged himself, sweat stinging his eyes as the searing heat radiated around him. "You taught me once, teach me again." The flames around the Minotaur flickered uncertainly, the raging inferno dimming to a steady, controlled blaze. Elias' heart surged with triumph, but the victory was fleeting. Suddenly, alarms blared louder, red lights flooding the chamber as the facility's emergency protocols kicked in. "Warning, energy levels critical, containment breach imminent." Elias' eyes darted to the observation window, where council members frantically gestured at their consoles. The facility's leaders were panicked, their confidence in Elias shattered. Yet in that chaos, Elias felt a fierce resolve ignite within him. "This is my chance," he thought, voice fierce in his mind. "Not just to prove them wrong, but to save us all." The cage's energy field pulsed wildly as Elias worked feverishly to channel the Minotaur's fire into a weaponized shield, a barrier of solar plasma that could absorb and deflect the devastating flare. Each keystroke was a gamble. One wrong move could unleash annihilation. Minutes stretched into an eternity as the solar flare's approach accelerated, sensors counting down to impact. Elias' breathing slowed, every muscle taut with focus. The Minotaur's fiery form shifted beside him, a living furnace contained only by trust and technology. "Trust me," Elias whispered, eyes meeting the creature's molten gaze. "Together we can turn this fire into salvation." A sudden jolt rocked the chamber, the Minotaur lashed out, flames surging uncontrollably. Elias stumbled but held firm, gripping the console as the cage walls glowed red-hot. The beast's fury was a storm, but Elias' determination was a shield. "Enough," he commanded, voice ringing with authority born from years of obsession and pain. "I am not your captor, I am your partner." The Minotaur paused, its flames flickering in hesitant obedience. Elias seized the moment, redirecting the energy flow, stabilizing the plasma shield around the facility's core. The screens flickered, the alarm softened, and for the first time the threat of the solar flare seemed manageable. Behind the glass, council members exchanged stunned glances. Dr. Mara Voss's expression shifted from doubt to cautious hope. "Elias, you did it." He allowed himself a brief, exhausted smile. "We did it." But as the immediate danger faded, Elias felt the weight of his isolation deepen. The council's mistrust had not vanished, only suspended. His methods were still controversial, his motivations questioned. Yet in this crucible of fire and fear, a fragile alliance had been forged. The Minotaur's flames dimmed to a steady glow, a living testament to the power Elias sought to command, not as a weapon of destruction but as humanity's shield. Yet beneath the surface of success, a darker conflict simmered. Elias knew this victory was only the beginning. The true battle lay ahead. Mastering the untamable fire within the Solar-Flare Minotaur, reconciling his pride with his vulnerabilities, and convincing a fearful world that sometimes salvation comes from embracing the very danger it fears most. As the facility's emergency lights blinked off and the solar flare's threat receded, Elias stood alone with the beast. The cage no longer a prison but a crucible. The fire still burned, and so did his resolve. In the depths of that fiery abyss, Elias Corbin was reborn, a man forged by loss, defined by obsession, and destined to wield the light that could either save or consume humanity. The cage groaned under the Minotaur's relentless fury, metal straining as molten hooves hammered the reinforced walls. Elias Corbin's breath hitched, his pulse pounding a frantic rhythm against the cage's confining bars. The fiery beast's violent outbursts were not just displays of anger, they were tests. Each slam, each burst of scorching flame was a challenge thrown directly at him, daring him to falter. Elias' eyes narrowed, muscles tense but mind razor-sharp. "Enough," he muttered, voice rough but unwavering. "Show me your pattern." The beast's inferno flared again, a tempest of solar plasma swirling unpredictably at first. But amidst the chaos, Elias noticed something, a subtle rhythm beneath the rage. A flicker of recognition in those blazing eyes when he held still, when his hands moved calmly rather than with panic. He shifted slightly, careful not to provoke another outburst. Slowly, deliberately, Elias raised his hand, palm open and steady. The Minotaur's flames pulsed in response, dimming for a heartbeat before flaring anew. The scientist's heart pounded not from fear, but from a spark of hope. "You're not just fire and fury," he whispered. "You're listening." Minutes stretched into hours as Elias observed, cataloging the fiery beast's movements. Each violent charge was followed by a brief pause, the inferno sputtering as if pondering the scientist's presence. The patterns emerged like a code waiting to be cracked. Elias' mind raced, piecing together the puzzle. In the corner of the cage lay remnants of his makeshift tools, scraps scavenged from the containment chamber, shards of heat-resistant alloy fashioned into rudimentary implements. His fingers itched to try again, to test his theories. But the risk was immense. One miscalculation, and the Minotaur's flames would turn from challenge to executioner. Clad in a hastily assembled protective suit, layered with reflective plating and insulated composites, Elias prepared himself for the first trial. The suit hissed as it regulated his temperature, the claustrophobic helmet fogging with every breath. He gripped a modified plasma conduit, a device designed to channel and redirect the Minotaur's searing energy without triggering its wrath. "Steady," he told himself, stepping cautiously toward the snarling inferno. The creature's eyes locked onto him, molten orbs blazing with solar intensity. Elias extended the conduit, angling it toward the roaring flames. A blast of heat surged, but instead of recoiling, the device absorbed and redirected the plasma, funneling it safely into a containment matrix embedded in the cage. Sweat stung his eyes, the heat oppressive, but Elias held firm. Sparks rained down, some grazing the suit's surface, but the protective layers held. The cage shuddered, threatening collapse, yet the Minotaur's fury seemed to wane, not from weakness but curiosity. "Good," Elias breathed, voice hoarse with exertion. "You're learning. So am I, yet beneath the triumph, doubt gnawed relentlessly. Was this madness? Could a man truly tame such a primordial force? Or was he merely courting death, blinded by obsession?" As exhaustion seeped into his bones, Elias allowed himself a moment of vulnerability. "Am I fighting the beast, or the part of myself that thrives on danger?" he asked aloud, voice fragile in the roaring inferno. The Minotaur's gaze softened briefly, almost contemplative, as if acknowledging the question. But the fragile truce shattered abruptly. Beyond the cage, alarms blared, a cacophony of warning that shook the entire facility. Elia's head snapped toward the observation window, where flashing red lights signaled a critical breach. Alien forces, sensing the Minotaur's instability, launched a coordinated assault to seize control of the creature's power. The Minotaur's rage escalated exponentially, flames erupting in wild, uncontrollable spirals. The cage trembled violently, threatening to rupture. Elia stumbled back, heart hammering in his chest. "No," he whispered fiercely, "not like this." Frantically, he activated the console, fingers flying over the alien interface. His mind raced to counteract the external interference, disrupting the containment fields. The Minotaur's fiery roars morphed into a chaotic storm, the plasma shield flickering under the assault. "Stay with me," Elias urged, voice cracking but resolute. The beast thrashed violently, its inferno now a deadly tempest. Yet in the eye of the storm, Elias glimpsed a fleeting moment of clarity, a spark of connection born from shared fury and desperation. "Remember," he pleaded, "we're not enemies." He extended his hand once more, the plasma conduit humming with energy. The Minotaur hesitated, its flames pulsing erratically. Then, miraculously, the inferno twisted, redirecting part of its destructive force into the containment matrix. Elias seized the opportunity, channeling the redirected energy to stabilize the cage's failing walls. The plasma shield flared to full strength, repelling the alien assault and momentarily quelling the beast's rage. The chamber's alarms dimmed, replaced by a tense silence. Breathing heavily, Elias looked up, eyes meeting the Minotaur's molten gaze, a gaze that now held something new: trust. Or perhaps understanding. "We're in this together," he said quietly. "You and I," but the victory was bittersweet. Beyond the observation glass, Earth's authorities watched with suspicion and fear. Their distrust was palpable, voices crackling over comms as they debated Elias' fate. "He's risking everything," one commander growled. "That creature's power is beyond control. If Elias loses himself to it, he's the only one who can harness it," Mara Voss countered, her voice steady despite the tension. "We can't afford to dismiss his approach, no matter how radical it seems." Elias, overhearing the exchange, clenched his fists. The weight of their doubts pressed on him like the oppressive heat of the Minotaur's flames. "They fear what they cannot understand," he thought bitterly. "But I will prove them wrong. If I fall, I'll fall fighting for a future worth saving." The Minotaur shifted beside him, its fiery breath swirling in a mesmerizing dance. Elias reached out again, this time without the conduit, simply extending his hand, open and unafraid. The flames reacted, not with destruction but with a warm, pulsating glow. In that moment, Elias felt a profound connection, a merging of human will and alien force. This was no longer a cage, no longer a prison. It was a crucible, a forge in which both man and beast could be refined. But the alien forces were not finished. The next wave of their assault loomed, promising to push the Minotaur and Elias to their breaking points. And deep within the scientist's mind, a storm brewed. The battle for control, for survival, and ultimately for redemption was only just beginning. Elias Corbin's breath caught in his throat as the facility's alarms screamed in unison. Piercing wail that shattered the tenuous calm within the containment chamber. The Minotaur's cage trembled violently, the reinforced steel groaning under the relentless assault of the titanic beast's hooves. Flames roared like a living storm, licking hungrily at the edges of their prison, sending sparks cascading like molten rain. Outside, beyond the reinforced glass, chaos erupted as Earth's military command scrambled to respond to an unfolding crisis that threatened the very core of the planet. A terse voice crackled over the comlink. "Dr. Corbin, this is Commander Harkov. You are ordered to evacuate immediately. The alien forces have breached the outer defenses. Their solar-powered weapons are targeting Earth's core. You must abandon the experiment and secure your extraction. Failure to comply will result in severe consequences." Elias' heart pounded, a tempest of conflicting emotions raging within him. The cold steel of the cage bit into his palms as he gripped the bars, knuckles white with desperation. The weight of the command pressed down like a merciless tidal wave. To flee alone meant abandoning the Minotaur, the fiery weapon he had come to understand, the living flame that might hold the key to saving Earth. Yet to stay was to risk everything: his life, the fragile alliance forged in fire, and the future of humanity itself. His gaze snapped to the Minotaur, whose molten eyes burned with an infernal fury, flames spiraling wildly. Threatening to breach the containment field, the creature's breaths came in scorching gusts, its raw power a volatile tempest, contained only by the cage's failing shields. Elias felt the beast's rage as a physical force, a maelstrom of primal energy and ancient pain. But beneath that fury, something fragile flickered, a glimmer of recognition, a silent plea. "Listen to me," Elias whispered, voice hoarse but resolute, stepping forward with deliberate calm. The heat was overwhelming, sweat streaming down his face, but his hand rose slowly, palm open, a gesture of trust and surrender. The Minotaur's flames pulsed erratically, then softened, a heartbeat of stillness amid the chaos. For a moment the inferno dimmed, revealing the raw, scarred flesh beneath the molten skin. Elias' voice was steady, unwavering. "I'm not your captor. I'm your partner. Together we can protect Earth, but I need you to trust me." The beast's gaze met his, and in that searing connection, Elias felt a fragile bond begin to form, one born of mutual respect and desperate hope. The flames flickered, no longer wild storms but rhythmic pulses, as if the Minotaur was listening, understanding. Behind the observation glass, the tension was palpable. Commander Harkov's voice crackled again, more insistent now. "Dr. Corbin, this is your final warning. Disengage and evacuate. The facility is compromised. Failure to comply will be met with force." Elias' jaw tightened. "I can't abandon the Minotaur." "Not now." His eyes darted to the flickering console embedded in the cage wall, his only link to controlling the volatile plasma energy. His fingers brushed the interface, sending tendrils of alien circuitry humming to life beneath his touch. Suddenly, the facility shuddered violently, as a blinding pulse rocked the outer defenses. The alien invaders had broken through, their solar-powered weapons unleashing devastating beams aimed directly at Earth's core. The ground beneath the station trembled, warning of an apocalypse in the making. The Minotaur's fire flared uncontrollably, the containment cage glowing red-hot, sparks flying as the plasma threatened to rip the walls apart. Elias stumbled backward, heart hammering, breath ragged. The inferno was a living beast now, poised to shred everything, including him to ash. "Hold on," he muttered fiercely, steps faltering but determined. "We're not done yet." His mind raced. Years of obsession, countless sleepless nights mastering alien tech, all converged into this singular moment. He had to make a choice: flee and survive alone, or merge with the fire and fight for Earth's salvation. With trembling hands, Elias activated the console's core interface, initiating the risky sequence he'd designed in secret, a daring protocol to synchronize his neural patterns with the Minotaur's plasma energy. The process was untested, dangerous beyond measure. Failure meant incineration. "Come on, old friend," Elias whispered, voice barely audible over the roaring flames. He placed his palm flat against the cage's inner wall, fingertips tingling as the alien technology interfaced with his nervous system. Heat surged, a burning wave that threatened to consume him, but he clenched his teeth, forcing his mind to merge with the living inferno. The Minotaur's fiery eyes widened, a pulse of recognition rippling through the plasma veins coursing beneath its skin. The flames around them responded, stabilizing into a controlled blaze, no longer a wild storm but a focused, living shield. Ilias' vision blurred as the energy coursed through him, pain mixed with an exhilarating power that transcended human limits. He felt the Minotaur's ancient consciousness brushing against his own, a fusion of fury and wisdom, rage and restraint. Minutes stretched like hours in that searing crucible. Outside, the alien weapons fired again, solar beams slicing toward Earth's core. But now, the containment cage radiated a brilliant shield of plasma light, absorbing and deflecting the deadly assault. Sparks flew, systems strained, but the barrier held. Ilias, Maravas's voice cracked through the calm. "You're doing it, the shield is holding." He managed a breathless smile, sweat stinging his eyes. "We're not just surviving, we're fighting back." But the cost was evident. The bond with the Minotaur was fragile, a delicate balance between man and beast, fire and flesh. Ilias felt the fire's hunger gnawing at his will, a constant battle for control. "Don't let go," he thought fiercely, "or we both burn." The military command's tone shifted, from urgent orders to wary admiration. "Dr. Corbin, your actions have bought us time, but the Council demands your full compliance." "The risks are too great." Ilias' voice was steely, unwavering. "The only way to save Earth is to embrace the fire, not cage it." "I'm not running, I'm fighting for all of us." As the alien assault intensified, the fusion of human will and solar fury created an unprecedented force, a beacon of hope amid the darkness. The Minotaur's flames pulsed in harmony with Ilias' heartbeat, a living testament to the fragile alliance between man and monster. In that inferno, Ilias Corbin found not only a weapon of destruction but a shield of salvation, a burning light that could either consume the world or ignite its rebirth. The battle was far from over, but for the first time, hope blazed brighter than the flames. Ilias' hands trembled as he pressed his palm firmly against the cage's inner wall, the interface humming beneath his fingertips like a living heartbeat. The conflagration inside the containment chamber was no longer just a fire, it was a symphony of solar plasma. Wild and untamed, yet now pulsing in rhythm with his own breath. The alien assault outside had reached a critical crescendo. Beams of searing light sliced through the atmosphere, threatening to ignite Earth's very air. The fate of the planet hung on a razor's edge, and Ilias was the fulcrum balancing all hope. "Hold steady," Ilias murmured, voice raspy from the searing heat and exhaustion. His mind raced against the ticking clock, calculating energy flows, plasma oscillations, and the volatile fusion between himself and the Minotaur's flames. The neural link he'd forged was tenuous, a dangerous thread connecting human cognition with an alien firestorm. But there was no turning back now. The Minotaur's molten eyes locked onto him with a fierce intensity, no longer filled with rage, but with a profound understanding born of shared survival. It was as if in that inferno, the beast and the man had transcended their separate existences, merging into a single entity. Ilias could feel the solar plasma coursing through his veins, a radiant fire that threatened to burn away his humanity, even as it empowered him beyond mortal limits. "Together," Ilias whispered, voice cracking with emotion, "we are the shield." A sudden surge of energy burst forth, a dazzling arc of radiant light enveloping the cage. The symbiotic fusion unleashed an energy barrier, unlike anything Earth had ever seen, a shimmering dome of iridescent plasma that pulsed with fiery brilliance. Alien weapons slammed against this barrier, their devastating solar beams shattering harmlessly on its surface. The atmosphere crackled with raw power, the shield shimmering and undulating like the surface of a star. But this spectacular defense came at a terrible cost. Pain exploded through Elias' body, a white-hot agony as the alien energy intertwined with his bioengineered cells. His vision blurred, images fractured and reassembled in kaleidoscopic bursts. The Minotaur's fire was not just a weapon, it was a living force seeking to consume and fuse completely. His mind teetered on the edge of madness, a tempest of solar fury and human will clashing within his skull. "Don't lose control," Elias gasped, staggering against the cage wall. Sweat and molten ash coated his skin, his muscles trembling violently. But beneath the torment, a fierce flame of determination burned brighter than ever. He would not let this fusion destroy him. If his mind shattered, Earth's last hope would be lost. Outside, the alien assault faltered, beams of light dissipating against the radiant shield. The skies above Earth, once threatened by annihilation, began to clear. The atmosphere, fragile and battered, was saved from incineration by the luminous barrier born of human ingenuity and alien fire. "Elias," Maravas's voice crackled urgently over the comm. "You're holding the shield stable." He managed a weak, exhausted smile. "We're not done yet," he whispered, voice barely audible above the roaring inferno within. "But this is only the beginning." As the last of the alien beams faltered, the cage's flames dimmed to a steady, controlled glow. Elias sank to one knee, every fiber of his being trembling from the fusion strain. His body was transformed, scarred by the plasma, infused with alien energy and forever changed. His face, once gaunt and pale, now bore the faint shimmer of solar light beneath his skin. His eyes, reflecting the Minotaur's molten gaze, held a new depth, a fusion of human resilience and cosmic fire. Despite the physical toll, Elias felt a profound clarity. The fire had not consumed him, it had refined him, forging a new identity from the crucible of pain and power. He was no longer just a scientist or a prisoner. He was a guardian, a living shield between Earth and the darkness. Hours later, in the sterile briefing room of the Earth Defense Council, Elias sat slumped in a chair. His body still radiating faint heat, the room was thick with tension. Military leaders exchanged guarded glances, some reluctant, others begrudgingly respectful. Commander Harkov broke the silence, voice gruff yet edged with reluctant admiration. "Dr. Corbin, your method worked. The shield held, Earth's atmosphere is intact." Elias met his gaze steadily. "It wasn't just my method," he replied quietly. "It was the Minotaur's fire, and the bond we forged. Fear of that fire nearly destroyed us, but understanding it saved us." The council murmured among themselves. Debate flared, ethical questions swirling like smoke. Was it right to risk a man's sanity, to fuse him with an alien weapon? What if the power turned against humanity? Could they trust Elias, now so profoundly altered? Maravas stepped forward, her voice calm but firm. "We have to consider the alternative. Without Elias' sacrifice, Earth's atmosphere would have been lost. The question isn't just risk, it's survival." Elias nodded, exhaustion weighing heavily on him but hope shining through. "I know the risks better than anyone, but the Minotaur's fire is not just destruction. It's life, energy that can protect, if we learn to wield it." Later, alone in his modest quarters, Elias stared into a small, cracked mirror. His reflection was a stranger, skin kissed by solar light, eyes flickering with molten embers beneath the surface. He traced a finger along the faint scars glowing softly. "How much of me is left?" he wondered aloud, voice tinged with melancholy. "How much of me can survive this fire?" Yet beneath the doubt, a flicker of resolve burned fiercely. The bond he had forged with the Minotaur's flames was more than power, it was kinship. A bridge between human and alien, fear and understanding, destruction and hope. His thoughts drifted to the future. Earth was safe for now. But the alien threat lingered, ever watchful. If humanity was to survive, it needed more than weapons. It needed alliances, knowledge and courage to embrace the unknown. Elia's fingers brushed the small data pad at his side, a prototype interface designed to teach others how to channel the Solar-Flare Minotaur's power safely. A spark of purpose ignited within him. I will teach them, he vowed softly, not just to control the fire but to respect it, to wield it as Earth's ultimate shield. Outside, the dawn broke over a scarred but unbroken world. The sky blazed with the first light of a new era, a fragile but radiant hope born from fire and sacrifice. Elias Corbin stood, body aching but spirit unbowed. The journey ahead was uncertain, fraught with peril and doubt. But in the fusion of human will and alien flame, he had found a truth that transcended fear. The fire could consume, or it could illuminate, and Elias was ready to lead the way into the light.